This is RamView.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, okay.
Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the June 4th, 2025 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, Kistler Law. They've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And I want to say thank you to those guys today because they fixed a tire for me on the house. So, yeah, loving Temple City Auto Repair. All right, not a whole lot of stuff breaking. There was a false report I got the other night that Jalen Ramsey had already been traded to the Rams. A lot of the interviews for the OTAs, Mike LaFleur, Chris Shula, these things are looking good. Chase Blackburn, some photos from or some video from OTAs, and then just little news around the NFL and other places. So not a lot of breaking stuff just yet. I was at sitting Woj level watching the Mets beat the Dodgers on Monday night when I got a message on my phone that the Rams had sent Jalen Ramsey or had acquired Jalen Ramsey from the Dolphins. The Dolphins picked up most of the contract, and all it cost the Rams was Kobe Durant. Now, it's kind of sad to lose Kobe Durant because I like Kobe Durant, but I thought, man, for Jalen Ramsey, plus the Dolphins eat the contract. Turned out it was too good to be true. I won't say the sources or give any names, but I was disappointed about that one not working out. Hey, before I get to the OTAs, I'm not going to go deep today. I've been a sports writer for 21 years. You can check out contributing at Mid-Valley Sports now. You can check us out there, as well as right here, RamView on YouTube. We can really use your subscription, your support, your stuff that keeps us in the algorithm. Also, be sure to check us out as we get back on track on Spotify from the RamCave. So I'm just going to, I don't know how long I'm going to go. I'm going to the stadium tonight. I'm eating at the Stadium Club. This is my last daytime broadcast for a while. I'll be back at 5 p.m. early evening on Friday night. But let's see what we got here. USA Expat, another OTA practice where Forbes is making a strong impression on Sean McVay. USA Expat, I can see Forbes with his length and 4.3 speed matching up with Marvin Harrison Jr. Am I going to get my props? Because I'm going to be insufferable on the Emmanuel Forbes business. I'm going to be absolutely insufferable. So you guys got to keep saying, Joe, I think you're calling it. You don't have to say I've called it yet, but when you start seeing it, just say, Joe, I think you call it. Then I won't have to honk for myself, though. Excited about what's potential there for Emmanuel Forbes. What's potential there with Emmanuel Forbes is Rams got a first-round cornerback without having to spend a first-round pick. Good news. With the expectation that the defense will be exceptional this season, I'm curious to see how things play out for Chris Shula's future, because as you watched him in his interview, and you had to love everything about his interview. How do you say this? You could tell by a guy that's been in the league, how long has he been an assistant with Sean McVay since 2018, 2017? This dude, even though his last name is Shula, he's paid his dues, right? He's not 19 playing one lousy year at USC and then making the roster here. We know what that means. But Chris Shula is a guy that has not apparently traded on his name, but whatever those genes and the bloodlines in that name, it sure is coming across. And he sure doesn't seem like it's going to be long before he's an NFL HC because he doesn't come across like Matt Patricia. You know what I'm saying? You just see him and you go, man, I see head coach all over this guy, right? And you're wondering how long will the Rams be able to retain him and hold on to him. I know people are saying that same about Michael LaFleur. I don't dislike Michael LaFleur, but I think Michael LaFleur looks like an OC, and he's got OC in his future and OC going down the road. I look at Chris Shula and I say, gosh, this guy's an NFL head coach. Doesn't mean I'm going to say he's like going to be a successful NFL head coach. It all depends where you land and who's around you, and whether or not your quarterback is Matthew Stafford or your quarterback's Mason Rudolph. That'll determine everything. But boy, you just watch him, and then you just see him when they're asking about the defense and how he's just explaining to players like Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and others. They say, hey, man, don't worry about the stats. Just be yourself. I mean, that really plays out because whatever he said, that was probably preached last year. And you look at Jared Verse's numbers. What was Jared Verse's official sack count last year? What was his official sack count, not counting the playoffs? Was it about 5 or something? But we all saw the impact. LaFleur, like I said, he was great. In his interview, it sounds a lot like McVay, right? He says a whole lot of stuff, but didn't reveal anything new. But you do have to like him. You like how Blackburn handled himself, sharing. USA Expat prediction: Shula 2026 head coach, Dallas. That would be a name that would appeal to Jerry, right? I don't know, if Shula's as wise as he's already shown to be. Would you want to go to Dallas, right? Would you want to go to Dallas and be a head coach there, knowing, how they're just one disaster after another? Would you want to go to Dallas? My other question to that: would you want to go coach the New York Knicks? But we'll save that for a little bit further down here in the broadcast. Looking at the NFL, just looking at Matthew Stafford, I was curious about how many players are still active from his draft class in 2009. 2008, there's 2 players left over that played last year: Josh Johnson, quarterback, who's played everywhere, and Calais Campbell from 2008. And the scary part is I remember that Saturday being on the couch watching especially Calais Campbell get drafted. And then in 2009, Matthew Stafford, him and Thomas Morstead, the punter who punted last year with, I believe it was the Jets and was just signed by the 49ers, they're the last drafted players active from the 2009 NFL draft. And then you start looking at players who weren't drafted. And I was watching the OTAs, and it was a brief shot of Willie Lampkin, who the Rams signed, and a lot of you guys are high on. He looks, boy, that guy's built like an interior lineman. He has an extremely wide base. I'm not saying he's got a big butt. I'm saying he's got a big base. That waist is just expansive, and it probably helps him get a lot of leverage in key situations there. So looking forward to see again how things play out this summer with the draft class, the free agent class, and what takes place. Steelers signed former Ram UDFA out of Memphis safety Quindell Johnson, who's been making the circuit. The 49ers just released him, I think, about a month ago. And at least he's still getting a shot, so good for him. You just want to be on the field and want to be under contract this time of year. NFC West, I talked about the 49ers. They finalized that deal with we talked about with Bryce, with Huff, and I think it's going to cost them a 5th-round pick and only about 8 rocks in salary cap. So it's a good deal for them. I don't view it as life-changing. We'll see, because of the 49ers, it's all about who stays healthy. They put longtime punter Mitch Wishnowsky in the street and signed Thomas Morstead, who was available. So I guess they consider that an upgrade. Looking at the Cardinals, we talked about them losing Sean Murphy-Bunting last week, but looking at their offense right now, there's speculation, and I saw in a couple different places, there's speculation out there that maybe a free agent wide receiver Keenan Allen would join the Cardinals. I think that would be a great sign for the Cardinals, as long as you're not depending on him to be healthy. That's it. I like Keenan Allen. I think Keenan Allen could still play. I don't think Keenan Allen is willing to play for anything less. So if he's not going to get paid what he wants, I doubt if he's going to sign. But because I think he should be on somebody's roster right now. I think the same thing for Amari Cooper. These guys should be on somebody's roster. And I give them credit if they're just staying in shape and waiting for someone to go down, because I would. Then you get to pick and choose. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers kind of taking place, right? What do you think the odds are Aaron Rodgers signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point, right? We're already in June. We're already past, OTAs are already going and winding down, getting ready to break, and he's still not signed, right? Maybe Joy Taylor doesn't know that, but he's still not signed. All right, and with the Seahawks, I thought this was pretty good because a lot of you guys have talked about this. Nick Emanuwari, the safety in this year's draft, was at South Carolina. Where's he at? South Carolina State? South Carolina. He was taken by the Seahawks, and he apparently is showing out for Mike McDonald's defense. And you got him, you got Weatherspoon, you got a reconstitution of the Legion of Boom 2.0. And so that's good for the Seahawks. I think their defense is going to be good. That's why I like the Seahawks and the Cardinals a lot better than the 49ers this year. So just keep an eye on those dudes in the North. They made the mistake at quarterback, though. I wouldn't have gone after Sam Darnold. Anyway, I digress. Rams open week 1 at home against the Texans, September 7th. And then they go on the road. They face the Titans and the Eagles. Then the Colts come to L.A. Colts don't have a quarterback. Then the Niners come to L.A. and Thursday Night Football, October 2nd. Then the Rams go to Baltimore. And then they go to London to play the Jaguars. Then they get a bye week. So that's kind of nice. They're off week 8. They're off week 8. Yeah. And then week 9, they play the Saints at home. So that's a good stretch for the Rams to get healthy. And that's where I think some of this stuff's going to come to bear. Again, we don't want to see the Rams get off to another slow start, which they always do. But they should beat the Texans at home. They should beat the Titans on the road. They should beat the Colts at home. They should beat the Niners at home. And I'll be magnanimous and give the Ravens the win in Baltimore on the 6th, on week 6, and then the Rams the win in London over the Jaguars. So I could see the Rams being 5-2 by the time they come off that bye, and then getting the Saints at home 6-2, and then by week 10. If the 49ers are healthy, they're going to be viable all year. Of course, they got that kind of talent, but we know the 49ers aren't going to be healthy. And by week 10, we're going to know what they are. And then that's where the stretch gets pretty serious. 49ers at the 49ers week 10, Seahawks and Buccaneers are at SoFi weeks 11 and 12. And those are going to be real good indicators. I think the Buccaneers are going to be better than some people think. I think the Buccaneers are a dark horse team in the NFC. Okay, rolling around to other places. I think this broke on Monday when we were on the air. Frank Ragnow, the longtime Lions center, a very decorated Lions center. Frank Ragnow retired after 7 seasons. I didn't see it coming. I'm not saying I saw it coming, but you saw where they spent the draft picks. Was it Tate Rutledge out of Georgia or Rutledge out of Georgia? We knew, that they're just going to keep that line strong. He's whatever they do, Rutledge has experience playing guard. So does Graham Glasgow. So they're got some guys that can handle it. They're not going to handle it as well as Ragnow. And that benefits the Rams, right? That benefits the Rams going forward because in week 15, we do get the Lions at home. And then other places, things breaking down, players talking. I saw a little bit of a thing there where Saquon Barkley said, hey, man, when I'm going to retire, it's just going to hit and stuff. And I didn't think that was much news. But it is interesting that podcast that Saquon Barkley said that came on the heels of Frank Ragnow's declaration after 7 seasons. So Ragnow's about 30, and he's getting out. And you give him credit. If those guys know when to quit, that's fine. That's been one of my issues where I've had struggle with some of the stuff when you go deeper into the deeper layers of things like CTE, and you see there's a lot of fraudulent news out there, fraudulent reporting out there. And I'm not all in on that CTE thing. I know people are thinking you're crazy, right? But they thought we were crazy in 2020 when we were seeing some of the holes in the arguments for COVID. And so I see a lot of holes in the CTE thing. But I give players credit that say, you know what, I'm just going to, I played 7 years. It was great. I'm moving on, right? I want to do other things. And it used to get me so angry when they talked about Junior Seau. I was like, whether it's CTE or anything, you don't play linebacker in the NFL for 20 years. And that's what Junior Seau did. And I love Junior Seau. And I'm really sorry for the things that happened to Junior Seau. But you don't play for 20 years at linebacker in the NFL. 20 years at quarterback, maybe you can. and we've seen that done. But 20 years at linebacker, you're not only abusing your body when you're playing, you're abusing your body to get ready to play. And so, all applaud to Ragnow for calling it when he called it, right? All applaud to Aaron Donald, right? We didn't want him to call it, right? 10 years, played 10 seasons, got a Super Bowl, got all of his accolades and all of his flowers, and he looks happy, healthy, and wise right now, right? Would we love them to come back? Of course we would. Love them to say my cup doesn't feel as full as it did. Beautiful, great. But if it doesn't happen this year, which I don't think it's going to happen, it's never going to happen. You can't take that much time out of the NFL, which is also another funny story, is that circulating across the Twitter or X this morning was another report that we see all the time about Colin Kaepernick saying he's working out and ready to play. It's like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. And my hair is ready to turn brown. It just, whatever. Okay. So I give credit to those guys that walk when they do. And before their bodies tell them too much that they have to. I made the comment about LeBron James or Bronny James, how The Athletic or something, some agency reported that Bronny James was going to be more prominent in the Lakers rotation next year. And we made the arguments that they couldn't even get by the Timberwolves, who got manhandled by OKC. And OKC had to go 7 games to beat Denver. But part of the Lakers' answer next year is like, yeah, we're going to move Bronny James up. And it was such a joke. And so I'm watching, I think it was Coward this morning, where they're talking about Austin Ainge was hired as a team executive for the Utah Jazz by his dad, Danny Ainge. And of course it was J-Mac and I think Alex Curry. They're going off, says, why isn't anyone complaining about this? It's like, well, chances of you finding an executive are a lot easier than you're finding somebody who can play in the NBA. What do you got in the NBA? You got 30 teams, 15 roster spots. That's a pretty minimum number. And I think there were some people out there that were better than Bronny James. Austin Ainge, yeah, sure, his dad got him the job, but there are less tangibles there in terms of trying to hire somebody to be an executive or to be this, because a lot of people can fill those spots, right? Or but with Bronny James, it's like, yeah. You don't have to be a GM. You could be a player personnel guy. You could be a scout. You could be this. You could be all sorts of things as a front office executive. But with you're a player in the NBA, it's like, please, right? And there's no comparison there between Austin Ainge being hired by his dad, Danny. Still, it's not a good look. I don't ever think it's a good look, but it's not like the Lakers drafting Bronny James in the second round and forcing him into the lineup with his dad. Yeah, kind of a joke. Speaking of jokes, was the firing of Tom Thibodeau by the Knicks. They're a disaster of a franchise for a quarter century. They get to the second round. They get to the conference finals. They won 2 games, should have won 3, right? They gave away game 1. The truth is about the Knicks was they didn't have enough. And they are talking about how, they were tired from playing so much this season. They were a game and a half away from going to the NBA championship. And then people are complaining about, I got construction going on outside the office here. They're complaining about, they're too tired. Well, the truth is NBA players are soft. I don't think there's a player in the NBA that would scare me walking down an alley. I think they're all soft. Even at my advanced age, they don't scare me. None of those guys scare me. I don't see a Mo Lucas. I don't see a Charles Barkley. I don't see Anthony Mason. I don't see any of these guys. I don't see a Charles Oakley. I see a bunch of soft dudes and complaining. And if they fired Thibodeau because they're complaining about the minutes they played, then heaven help the Knicks, right? They don't have enough firepower. They just didn't have enough firepower. They were beat by a better, deeper team. And then they put Thibodeau in the street. Who wants that job with the Knicks right now? Who wants a job like that? And this is where the NBA just hurts itself. If a team is stupid enough to give its power to the players, then they deserve everything they get. They deserve 25 years of incompetence like the Knicks got. This is something I want to see. And I don't trust JJ Redick yet with the Lakers. I'm not a Laker fan anymore. But when it comes right down to it, does JJ, with all his tough talk and his attitude and his stuff that he flashes, does he have the ability to tell LeBron James to sit down and shut up? I don't know if he's got the guts. And I don't know if he believes Laker management, including Jeannie, would ever back him up. But when you find a coach, do you think any player in that Golden State Warrior roster could ever complain about something and management in Golden State would ever come back and say, yeah, Steve, we're getting rid of you, getting rid of Steve Kerr? No. I don't think, even with the Pacers right now, the way this is set up, would you go against Rick Carlisle? I don't think they would. I don't think they would go against Spoelstra down there in Miami. You're going to go. We're going to keep power in the front office. And the Knicks, man, I've always kind of liked the Knicks, and that was really disappointing to see them put Thibodeau in the street. Neil Gonzalez, thank you, Neil, for joining us. Do you think his assistant coaches should be under contract? Do you think assistant coaches should be under contract? Help me with that one. Where are we? Are we talking football, basketball on that one? Let me know, Neil. Michael Negretti, Pastor Joe, how come you're not a Lakers fan anymore? You know what? Once you lived through Showtime, anything else is it's like seeing a Beatlemania. When I was a kid, they used to push Beatlemania, and they would say it's not the Beatles, but an incredible simulation, right? Well, you're not seeing the Beatles. And I didn't think Shaq was that great of a player. I thought Shaq got away with murder. And then, of course, his career kind of took a downward turn, right? He stole that title in Miami. Not stole it, but without Dwayne Wade, he doesn't get it. I was glad the Lakers traded him. I just didn't like his game. I thought Kobe, I give full credit to Kobe. I wasn't crazy about Kobe early on, but that's a guy that just kept getting better and better, and you can tell he was driven. He would have fit in with the Showtime Lakers. But the level of play in the NBA just tailed off. I think the Bulls run was a case of Detroit got old, Boston got old, the Lakers got old, and it was the Bulls' turn. And then I think also what we've seen with what we've seen where people are calling the Warriors teams. The Warriors teams would have been run out of the building and absolutely beaten up. They're an absolute donut hole in the middle against any of those 80s teams that we saw. They never would have stopped Kareem, right? Can you see the Warriors battling against Rick Mahorn and the Bad Boys? Can you see that happening? I can't see that happening. Can you see them battling against the big three of the Celtics in the 80s? No, they weren't the greatest team ever. The NBA got really soft, and that's where I lost interest. And then it became really bad basketball. And it was basketball that was so bad that a really fundamentally sound team like the Spurs was an organization that was like a dynasty. What did they win? 5 titles over the span of 12, 14 years? Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Robinson, and then, of course, the big fundamental. These were great basketball players. And I'm not saying some of these guys aren't great players, but LeBron James never got knocked on his butt. He never had to live through the Jordan rules. And it's a softer league right now. And so bad basketball offends me. Bad basketball is just gross because I played it, I coached it. And I might say I played bad basketball and coached bad basketball, but it's awful to watch. And there are little glimpses now as with these teams, you're seeing something just a little bit more. I still don't like all the 3-point shooting, but OKC is pretty good to watch. Golden State in this era has been fun to watch. It's a pleasant watch. The Pacers are a pleasant watch. Watching Jokic play is just awesome. I think I made arguments that nobody wants to see Indiana. The NBA didn't want to see Indiana, or the networks didn't want to see Indiana OKC because of the ratings, and I hear people saying, "Oh, there's no stars." Well, because they're idiots and they don't like basketball. I look at the KBM and I hear the whining that there's no stars. If you love basketball, you're going to love it. Caitlin Clark's never going to play in the NBA, but Caitlin Clark plays good basketball, right? Plays really good basketball. good basketball is beautiful to watch, and that's why I just drifted away from the NBA for a long time. It's insufferable. It's awful to watch most of the time. I feel like it's gotten a little bit better. I do like SGA a lot. I like Halliburton's game, yeah, it's interesting. And with the right coach, right? With the Minnesota just died against OKC, but with the right coach, man, you see Julius Randle look like a different guy, right? With the in the right place at the right time. Jalen Brunson with the Knicks. No one saw the Jalen Brunson that was in Dallas was going to be the Jalen Brunson that you got in New York, and so pretty marvelous stuff there. But so I drifted away from the Lakers a long, long time ago. Anyway, I hope that answers the question. Neil Gonzalez, football, because Rams always lose their assistants, but with a contract, they are obligated to stay until it runs out. I imagine in those contracts, Neil, there are things like, the assistant coaches aren't going to sign a contract. At least the high level coordinators, they're going to keep that window open, right? Sometimes they're not allowed to make a lateral move. In the contract, you're not allowed to go from OC for the Rams to be OC for the 49ers from directly one season later. I think there's some lateral conditions on there, Neil, that prevent that. I don't think you can prevent a coach. I think you can tell them, hey, man, we need a 2-year commitment from you before they sign. But I think most of them try to keep their things in place there just to protect themselves so you can't make a lateral move. That's my thinking on this. Let's see. Bill, do you ever get the feeling that we are not getting Ramsey? Yeah, I do. I want him. I'm not anti-Ramsey, and I don't think he's a shutdown corner anymore. I don't want to give up too much, and I don't want most of that contract. But I don't know what the Bills or the Dolphins want, and I don't know what the Rams want to pay. And I think it's just going to be maybe Ramsey's a mid-season pickup, right? Maybe it's somewhere along the way like that. I don't know, but I'm with you, Bill. If it happens, great. I'm excited. I kind of want to keep Kobe Durant through this contract year just to see him develop. I like the Rams corner group as a whole. Maybe not. There's not that flashy guy out there. There's definitely not Rod Perry and Pat Thomas, but I do like that room as a whole. Neil Gonzalez, thanks, Pastor Joe. Well, I hope I answered that well, man. Thank you. Bill, does Ronnie River make the roster this year? I think it's going to be really hard for Ronnie Rivers to make the roster this year. Because when you look at that, let me scroll up there. There's 3 guys Rams are committed to: Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, and Jarquez Hunter. Those guys are on the roster unless something spits the bit, something horrible happens. Cody Schrader is still around. Cody Schrader got activated for the playoffs because of Blake Corum. Cody Schrader was never put through waivers by the Rams because they didn't want to lose him, so he never got put on the practice squad. He was inactive all year, and then in the postseason he got active. Maybe week 18 he was. I'm not sure. So and then there's free agent UDFA Jordan Waters. There was, if you go back and you look at transactions, back in January, the Rams actually re-signed Royce Freeman, but now he's not appearing on any of the rosters, so I don't know what happened there. And that was a long shot anyway. But Ronnie Rivers, you see him at the OTAs, you see him working out. I don't think it looks good for him. I just don't think it looks good for Ronnie Rivers. I remember thinking that also when, what was it? What year was that? Was that going into 2023? Was it 2023? I think when that happened, when the Rams had Kyron Williams, they had rebrought it. They brought back in Sony Michel, and who else they brought? They had somebody else there. Oh, they had drafted Zach Evans, and it was like, oh yeah, Ronnie Rivers, man, you ain't gonna make it. And then with all the injuries and everything that took place, Sony Michel retired, and then Ronnie Rivers came in 23 and actually made some contributions before he turned his ankle. I like Ronnie Rivers. No, I don't. The interesting thing is right now the Rams got 4 tight ends they like: Higbee, Davis Allen, Colby Parkinson, and Terrence Ferguson. Yeah, so that's 4 tight ends. Do the Rams keep 4 running backs? Williams, Corum, and Hunter for sure. And then you got Schrader and Ronnie Rivers. Jordan Waters will probably end up on the practice squad, or unless he ends up going someplace else and somebody else signs him. But yeah, I don't think it looks good for Ronnie Rivers. But give Ronnie Rivers credit, man. This guy's eked out NFL time, and he's probably this close to getting that pension, if not already. So good for Ronnie Rivers. But no, I don't think he's a long-term guy this year. Manny Vasquez. I wouldn't mind Ramsey, but for a fifth, since there is no fourth this year. Yeah, again, deep draft next year, right? I don't want to give up too much. If I give up a fourth, I want less of the contract, right? Dolphins keep more of that contract and stuff. And that's why when I saw the report that was sent to me, this was a friend saying they read it somewhere, and when it said the Rams get Jalen Ramsey and the Dolphins eating most of the contract, that's why I saw, okay. And that's why they had to give up a kind of a quality NFL corner in Kobe Durant. Not great, but a quality corner, a proven NFL corner. But the thing about Kobe Durant, he's in his last year of his contract too. So I don't know how much that would work for the Dolphins end of it. They might want Emmanuel Forbes, right? And I wouldn't. At this point, I know that sounds crazy. Am I crazy for saying it? I wouldn't give Emmanuel Forbes up for Jalen Ramsey. Would you? At this point? Sorry about the construction, guys. I can't believe it. They waited until I went on the air. Let's look at this date in Rams history.
It was a stone group, my man.
Not a lot of stuff there on this date. The Rams signed their 1969 key opponents of their 1969 draft class. They signed Bob Klein. They also signed a sixth-round tight end named Pat Curran. Klein and Curran would be teammates through the 74 season. Curran would go to the Chargers in 75, and what's his name? Klein would go to the Chargers in 77, and then the Chargers in 79 would draft Kellen Winslow, and that was the end of that tune. On this day in 1973, the Rams hired Ray Malavasi as a defensive coordinator. We know how it ended for Malavasi. Most of us as Ram fans know about him falling asleep on the air with Robert W. Morgan on KMPC. We know about the 81 and 82 debacles and everything with Malavasi. But Malavasi took over a team in 78 and got them to the NFC Championship game with Pat Hayden, right? And a running back room that was devastated. Everybody went down that year. And then in 79, he held that team together when everybody, including the fan base, turned against it and got them to a Super Bowl. And literally an Eddie Brown, Nolan Cromwell. I blame it on Eddie Brown because I like Nolan Cromwell play from winning Super Bowl 14. But what I think people forget is that how great that Rams defense was in the 70s. We mentioned Merlin Olsen. We mentioned Jack Youngblood, Hacksaw Reynolds, but the DC in all that was Ray Malavasi. And of course, that guy was older than me then, and he looked like he was 80 years old. Talk about stress. But Ray Malavasi was hired by the Rams 52 years ago today. Born on this day, 72 years ago, was former Ram tight end, I believe the late Mike Barber. Rams acquired him from Houston in 82. I think he became a preacher, and I think he got into some trouble financially, and he passed. I think he's passed away. I'll have to check that. And then passing away on this day in 2004 was Ram defensive back Al Clark. Al Clark came to the Rams in 72, was with the team through 75. I remember just doing some of my research in this. He was always a backup. 72, he played a lot. From 73 through 75, he was a backup defensive back. And very popular in the locker room, I read. Did not know that. He was a very popular player when he got released. People were upset. I think he ended up in Philly for 1 year, and then he retired. Al Clark, to me, is the guy that saved the day when the Rams beat the Cowboys 37-31. The first Ram game I listened to from start to finish on KMPC, on the radio. Harold Jackson scored 4 touchdowns. But Al Clark was the guy that got the pick that stopped the Cowboys' final drive in October 14th, 1973. And so he passed away on this day in 2004 at the age of 56. Tomorrow, Torrey Holt, turns 49. Hopefully they'll find a way to get him into the Hall of Fame. And then June 5th, 1984, Rams in a USFL supplemental draft William Fuller and Rick Johnson. Fuller, defensive end, Johnson, a quarterback. Johnson played in the USFL, spent some time, I think, with the 87 Lions. He's the guy that if you ever see Jerry Maguire at the end when it's the whole ambassador of Quan, when Rod Tidwell's on the Roy Firestone show, and you see the Jay Moore character, try to react to it and give that quarterback a hug, and his quarterback pushes him away. That's Rick Johnson. The bigger name there is William Fuller, who got into a fight with John Hadle with the Express. Fuller was included in the deal for Jim Everett. He went to Houston. Later on, he played with the Eagles. He had a really nice career. Fuller played 13 seasons in the NFL, registering 100.5 sacks. There we go. I think we got it all out of the way. It's 3:26. Oh, and I got to be someplace at 4. All right. So let me look at these questions, please, and then I'll get you guys out of here. No Ramsey, please. On-field antics on teammates shows his character. Hey, the Rams love Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey produced. Are you talking about when he slapped Taylor Rapp? I don't know why he slapped Taylor Rapp, but I'll take Jalen Ramsey. I will. I just don't want to give too much for him because I don't think he's the guy you got from Jacksonville in 2019. Manny Vasquez, the only thing that concerns me about Forbes is his weight. If he had put on about 10 to 15 more pounds of muscle on him, looks skinny at 180, and that can open him up to getting pushed around or get injured. There we go. That's what we live with, though. That's the world we live in. But if we get some clicks out of him, right? If he can give us that thing that we don't have, a glue guy for a while, he's got 2 years left on his contract. I'm good with him. And I don't know if he could put on 10 or 15 more pounds. If he can, great. But that's a good call there, Manny. We'll be sure to visit that during the season. Tim Powers, it's my birthday too. Mr. Powers, I will mention your birthday. Mr. Powers' birthday is October 10th, guys. Just to let you know, he needs an acknowledgement for his birthday. Make sure. I happen to know Mr. Powers just celebrated his anniversary, and he got all kinds of Ram gear. So maybe he can send us some photos of that. I also scored some Ram stuff, stuff. I got photos from the 1957 Rams that were found in an envelope in someone's garage that have been in there for like 50 years. And I just was given them by a friend. Okay, guys, I got to go. I'm going to see the Mets beat the Dodgers tonight. So I am looking forward to that. And but until then, thank you for stopping by. Thanks for putting up with me getting on early. And we will see you soon.